Robert Allen was no kingpin, just a mid-level drug dealer. Yet, he dared to rip off £30,000 from the UK's most notorious organised crime gang. To them, the money was absolutely nothing, but for Allen, it would mark the beginning of an unending nightmare. One quiet afternoon in 2015, Allen was relaxing at home when the doorbell rang. Without a second thought, he opened the door, only to be met with a brutal punch. As he struggled to fight the man, two more people attacked him from behind. That moment, Allen's life was irrevocably altered. What he couldn't have imagined was that his suffering would eventually lead to the disintegration of a £200 million European criminal powerhouse. This is the vicious story of Scotland's most elaborate criminal network and the sting behind its unimaginable downfall, Operation Escalade. Fast forward 2 years to January 20th, 2017. As part of the ongoing Operation Escalade, the Organised Crime and Counter-Terrorism Unit was monitoring several properties and vehicles linked to the organised crime group. One of these vehicles, a silver Toyota Yaris, was parked on Church Street in Deadliest on the eastern outskirts of Glasgow. Suddenly, Mark Richardson, a major player of Scotland's underworld, appeared near the vehicle. The officers gave chase and tackled him to the ground. This incident would later mark a pivotal turn in the operation, transitioning it from a secretive surveillance mission to a high-profile enforcement action. Richardson was found with the keys to the Yaris. A routine check of a fob attached to the keys revealed nothing at first. However, when activated, the fob triggered a hydraulic mechanism within the car. A metal plate shifted, exposing a concealed compartment. Inside, officers discovered a firearm smeared with Richardson's DNA and loaded with 15 bullets. This coincidental discovery would contribute as the catalyst for a series of events that eventually led to the disintegration of the criminal empire. In the following weeks, officers discovered several sets of keys, including one labelled Annie. This key opened an industrial unit off Croftside Avenue in the Crawford area of South Glasgow. Another unit on Western Farm Road was believed to be the key logistical hub. It served as the main workshop where gang members modified a fleet of vehicles worth £200,000. By cross-referencing the keys with addresses linked to the gang, police arrived at a lockup in Annie's Land on February 5th, 2017. The first thing the officers noted was that the unit was rented under a false name and the monthly £500 fee was paid up front in cash. As the police walked down a row of lockups, they encountered an unusually robust and shiny door secured with 2 padlocks. What was odd was that the rest of the lockups had deteriorating wooden doors. Holding a key fob labelled Annie and being in Annie's Land, investigators noted that the puzzle was working itself out. As soon as they opened the door, they realised they had struck gold. 11 weapons neatly packaged and labelled, including Glock pistols, Koch submachine guns, and an N75 hand grenade. However, the true breakthrough wasn't just the weapons. The crucial discovery was the forensic evidence found on these weapons, particularly Robert Allen's DNA. You remember Robert Allen, right? Back in 2015, David Sell, a key figure in the gang who led a double life as a lorry driver by day and a narcotics kingpin by night, was enraged after discovering that one of his dealers had stolen £30,000 from him. So he turned up at his store with 2 of his associates. They forcefully took him to a remote industrial site in Midlothian, where a brutal session of torture ensued. Allen suffered under a barrage of attacks. He was whipped with a chain, struck with a metal bar, and severely injured with a 14-pound sledgehammer, resulting in a broken leg. The ordeal escalated when Allen was stripped, doused in bleach, and then blindfolded and transported to an isolated area in Stewartfield, East Kilbride. There he was shot 3 times in the knees before being dragged up a hill and forced to roll down, abandoned by his assailants. Remarkably, bystanders found him and helped him survive this savage attack. Unknown to Sell and his associates, the Beretta 9000 used to pistol whip Allen retained his DNA. Almost 2 years later, that same gun would help OCCTU in connecting the dots and ultimately in identifying those responsible for his misery. By disassembling the weapons into their smaller parts, forensic scientists were able to identify and analyze microscopic evidence, from skin cells to traces of sweat. This advanced technique allowed OCCTU experts to extract Robert Allen's DNA from a tiny blood sample found inside the weapons chamber. An immediate arrest warrant for David Sell and his associates was issued due to their involvement in Robert Allen's torture. This arrest was pivotal to Operation Escalade, marking the start of a series of actions aimed at dismantling Scotland's most intricate crime syndicate. Following numerous raids, fresh insights, and 6 arrests, Scotland's Organised Crime and Counter-Terrorism Unit deepened their understanding of the crime group's complex methods for hiding their activities. They recognised they were dealing with one of Scotland's most elaborate crime organisations, which posed a substantial challenge. This group's criminal network extended beyond the UK, reaching into Spain, Portugal, Belgium, and Holland. Their cocaine business operated on an industrial scale, pulling in over £2 million weekly, accumulating to about £100 million annually. They controlled a formidable array of weaponry, substantial drug reserves, and a vast sum of illicit funds. Moreover, their tactics to evade law enforcement were incredibly advanced. They used fake identities to rent warehouses in isolated areas, specifically to conceal their firearms. Their vehicles were modified with secret compartments for transporting and safeguarding their arsenal in secured lockups. Central to the success of Sell's operation was his direct business of coke from major crime syndicates. Sell made frequent trips to South America, including Brazil, where he met directly with the drug suppliers. His connections extended to being regularly seen among the top cartel leaders. Brazil was where the Giuseppe brothers sourced their products. At the peak of the drug operation chain, the brothers amassed over £100 million annually through a network involving global criminal organizations. This activity caught the attention of the American Drug Enforcement Agency, prompting collaboration with the UK's police and National Crime Agency. The government launched Operation Escalade, an initiative aimed at dismantling the entrenched drug and firearm gangs that had troubled the country for years. The operation was initiated with critical information from the UK police, DEA, and Interpol. With the establishment of these partnerships, the OCCTU expanded its capabilities, extending its reach globally to track down international criminals. Yet, their first task was to address the local criminals. As Operation Escalade progressed, separate investigations began to merge. By the end of 2017, OCCTU's meticulous efforts had led to the incarceration of 9 high-level mobsters from the organised crime gang, including David Sell and Mark Richardson. The list of crimes ranged from the merciless torture of a man to a massive arsenal of drugs and weapons found in a car, illegal firearm possession, and money laundering for the mob. In December 2017, Scotland's most sophisticated gang faced justice in court, putting a face to organised crime. 9 faces, to be exact. Collectively, they were sentenced to a total of 87 years in prison. David Sell received the longest sentence of all, 15 years and 8 months, for his role in the abduction and brutal torture of Robert Allen. In court, David Sell acknowledged his involvement in the abduction and violent assault on Allen. His associate Barry O'Neill admitted to involvement in cocaine trafficking and received a sentence of 7 years and 4 months. Following these court proceedings, attention shifted to the logistical backbone of the crime group, the storage facilities and vehicles they used for hiding and moving cocaine, cash, and firearms. Michael Bowman and Francis Mulligan, who specialized in electronics for the gang, orchestrated these operations. They, along with Anthony Woods, who was also implicated, were convicted for their roles in facilitating these crimes. Bowman and Mulligan were each sentenced to 8 years, whereas Woods received a longer sentence of 11 years and 1 month after admitting to significant organized crime activities. The next phase of the investigation centered on a shooting in September 2016 at the home of Robert Kelby, a local gangster from Rathow, Edinburgh. Jared Doherty was linked to the scene by DNA evidence and received a sentence of 10 years and 6 months for his involvement in the shooting. Then the prosecutors brought out the big guns. It was the discovery of a massive stock of deadly firearms in a lockup in Anniesland, Glasgow, in 2017 that escalated things. Included were Glocks, Beretta submachine guns, grenades and ammunition, also the weapons ingeniously concealed within the rear bumper of a Toyota Yaris. In a related arrest, Stephen McArdle was caught with a Glock at a house in Wishaw, North Lanarkshire, leading to a sentence of 7 years and 100 days. Mark Richardson faced a similar fate with an 8-year and 9-month sentence after a Glock was discovered in his vehicle in Baillieston, Glasgow. Martin Fitzsimmons, a former army veteran turned gun smuggler, was sentenced to 10.5 years for possessing firearms, ammunition, and £36,000 of illicit funds. The arrest of these key figures marked a significant triumph for Operation Escalade, which had effectively neutralized some of the UK's most formidable criminal elements. However, the mission was far from complete. The focus shifted internationally, targeting the Gillespie brothers, often referred to as Scotland's Pablo Escobar brothers, signaling a new chapter in the global fight against organized crime. These two are titans of the criminal underworld. Their operations and influence span globally, affecting continents and shaping the landscape of international crime. How did they build such a vast empire? And how is the hunt for these criminal masterminds progressing? As we prepare to dive into their incredible story, make sure to subscribe and stay updated with us.